Hey guys, we are back. Today I join you with Michelle Cohan.
Howdy.
And I am Robert Greenblatt. Today we are going to talk to you real quick about how not to prepare for a closing. How not to prepare for a closing if you're buying a house. Did I get that right? Is that
Sort
what?
of.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I know. So stay with us. Here's three things, guys. Three things we're going to share with you. How not to prepare for a closing if you're buying a house.
Right.
One thing for sure: do not bring an expired driver's license as identification.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Right? No. So every time I ask a buyer client this, Michelle, I always kind of feel silly. A couple of days before closing, I always say, hey, just remember, make sure you bring a valid driver's license or government issued ID and or passport or some other form of secondary ID. And I always say, make sure the driver's license or passport are not expired. And I hate saying that not expired piece, but I'll tell you, every once in a while, someone goes, crap.
Oops.
My driver's license, I meant to renew it 3 months ago. It's expired. And at least they have a little time to scramble and figure that out.
Yeah.
So don't bring expired ID to a closing because that title agent is not going to take it. It's going to create a problem. You had an interesting one recently, right? So what's like the most important thing that a buyer should bring to closing?
Their funds.
Yeah, right? So they need money, right?
Yeah.
They may need a down payment, closing costs, or the entire purchase price. What happened to you recently?
So I was at a closing, and no names or companies will be mentioned this. We don't want to harm anybody.
Right.
So we were at a closing. We're almost to the end. The buyer said, I didn't bring my money. What do you mean? You're paying cash.
No mortgage. No mortgage, guys. So
No.
few $100,000, right? Give or take.
$350,000. So
Right.
like, to me, make your arrangements beforehand, bring a check, do something. Yeah, nothing.
Right. So a little crazy when you think about it. So, usually, and you were helping the seller in that transaction. So, usually we'll have a quick conversation. When a buyer has a mortgage, we're not always privy before closing to the exact numbers that they need to bring, but the mortgage professional who's servicing them will always go over all those details. And then I know as a rule, I always check in with that buyer and say, hey, did you have that conversation with your mortgage professional? Review the numbers. Yes. And how are you planning to bring those funds to closing? And it's usually one of two ways, either a cashier's check, which has certain protocol, or sending a wire transfer, which also has its own protocol. But in this case, that buyer wasn't getting a mortgage. So
no mortgage. Funds had to be transferred to the account that she was writing it out. The wire would have taken longer. Getting a check. Oh, it was just, I sat there. I had to hold my mouth closed. Let's put it that way. Because I was like,
Right. And look, and for those of you watching this who've never purchased or sold a house, if this particular buyer had her checkbook with her, the title company is not going to take a personal check for $350-something thousand. I don't know of a title company that would. So that's not going to happen, on the day of closing. That's for sure.
Not even that. And not even just that, her moving company was already at the house.
Oh, sweet. Awesome. Right. So we got three things not to do at a closing, or not to do in preparation for closing. Not to bring expired identification, right? Don't forget your funds. Your funds are really important. That's a piece of the puzzle for closing. Okay. Really, really important. You're not going to get keys without funds. And then this is kind of like a no-brainer, but this often gets overlooked. It's kind of like a two-part piece, right? Make sure you get insurance on your new home and make sure that the utilities are transferred, right? So if you're getting a mortgage, the insurance is part of the mortgage preparation process, right, Michelle? So you can't really forget that. The mortgage company won't let you forget. But what about utilities? How does that work?
That you can forget. I mean, the only thing that they're going to look at is the water. You have to do every other utility. So, don't be surprised if you move into the house and everything's dark.
Yeah. And actually, in some cases, depending on the town, the water isn't municipal. It might be private water. So you may not even have running water in the house, right? It might be there when you go for your walkthrough the night before, but by the time you get there the next afternoon after your closing, it might be cold and dark and dry.
Yeah.
Right.
Home.
Right. And then it's actually kind of a hassle to get things turned back on. So typically what we tell people there is, as a buyer, please contact these. Here's the utility companies. We usually let you know that about a week to 2 weeks ahead of time, and tell them I'm closing on this particular day. So the utility company does what they need to do. And hopefully the seller is essentially doing the same thing and saying, hey, I'm selling on this particular day. And those utility companies know they flip those switches right on that day. And it changes from seller's name to buyer's name.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the insurance is an interesting one. So going to back to the insurance for your example. So a cash buyer has nobody telling them about insurance.
Correct.
I wonder, do you think that transaction that you were recently in where they didn't even bring the funds to closing, you think that person even got insurance on the house?
I don't even want to guess at this point. I have my fingers crossed for her.
Yeah. I don't know. Right. I mean, like technically on a house, if there's no mortgage, you don't have to have insurance. Bad idea. You should always have insurance. On a condominium, you would still require it. But yeah, I don't know. So, that's an important thing, right? So utilities and insurance, super important. Money, always super important. And ID, right?
Yeah. Got to know who you are.
Yeah, got to know who you are. Right. Yeah. Those are the three things, guys. Thanks for joining us today. I think that's a wrap. What do you think, Michelle? All right, cool. Michelle Cohan right there.
See ya.
Hey, Robert Greenblatt right here. Please take a minute, like this video, subscribe to this video. Please share our video, and we will see you guys again real soon.
Bye.